Hey guys, this is Cooper from Team UGNXT coming at you with an Infernoid deck profile. Before we get to the deck itself, I want to explain the general categories that the Infernoids fall in and what restrictions they have and what effects they share. So beginning, Infernoids generally fall into three categories. There's the small ones, the the medium-sized ones, and then there's the two really big ones at the end. None of the Infernoid monsters can be normal summoned, and they all can be summoned by banishing a certain number of cards. For the small ones, you banish one, and they have to be summoned from hand. For the medium-sized ones, you banish two monsters from your hand or your graveyard to summon them from your hand or your graveyard. And for the largest ones, you banish three cards from your hand or graveyard to summon them from your hand or graveyard. All of them share the blanket effect that they cannot be summoned if the total level and rank of effect monsters on the field exceed 8. For the small ones, if you activate their effect, they cannot attack that turn. And during your opponent's turn, you can tribute a monster and banish a card in your opponent's graveyard. For the medium-sized ones, their effects activate in the battle phase. And during either player's turn, you can tribute a monster to banish a card in your opponent's graveyard. And the last one, they do not share the tribute one monster, banish a card in an opponent's graveyard type effect. But they do have specialized effects on their own. So, with that said, let's get into the deck itself. Starting off, I run a mini Lightsworn engine with 2 Raidens and 2 Lilas. Like I said, none of the Infernoid monsters except Decatron can be normal summoned. So these are monsters that you can normal summon in the deck. Raiden's a level 4 tuner that mills 2 cards to gain attack, and at the end phase he mills 2. Lila, summon her, switch her to defense to pop a spell or trap that's bugging you, and at the end phase you can mill 3. You can also leave her an attack and attack with her if you like. But yeah, these are reasoning targets for the deck in your mini Lightsworn engine. As for the Infernoids themselves, we're playing 3 Infernoid Decatron. This guy is the only Infernoid monster that can be normal summoned. When he's on the field, you can send any Infernoid monster, and this guy will gain their level and effect. Too bad it doesn't gain its attack, but it can get you out of a lot of sticky situations. You can pop back row with him by sending one. You can pop monsters by sending one. And overall gain a lot of advantage off of this one card by putting one in your graveyard that you can summon later if you need to. So, Stegatron. The other level 1 that I play is Primus. Primus, when you summon him, he has the effect that, well, it doesn't have to be on summon, but you can target one set card your opponent controls and shuffle it back into the deck. And if it is a spell or trap card that you are targeting, your opponent can't activate that as a response to this card's effect. For level 2s, I'm running 3 Antra. Antra is your compulse for the deck. You banish one from your hand or graveyard to summon him from your hand. Remember that all the littler ones must be summoned from your hand and can't be summoned from your graveyard. But you can target one monster on the field, or one face-up monster on the field, and return it to your opponent's hand. So, spot removal, it's great. 3 Harmodic. He's kind of like Antra, except you can target one monster your opponent controls and just destroy it. A lot of people like to play with this card's ratios. They can run him at 2, you can run him at 3. I'm running him at 3 because spot removal is a thing in this game, and at worst, he is a banish fodder for some of the bigger guys later on. So, great card. Running 3 Petrulia. Petrulia is one of my favorites of the deck. This one has the effect of popping a spell or trap card that your opponent controls. It can't attack when it does that, just like all the rest of the little ones. But it can get rid of your opponent's iron wall that's really plaguing you, or a speller trap that you're worried about or just concerned about. Moving on to the next level of Infernoids, I'm running 2 Sedimus. This is your level 7. Now you can banish 2 from your hand or graveyard to summon him from your hand or graveyard. And if this card makes it through the end of the battle phase after it attacks, you can banish 1 card. You can do a lot of slippery things with this guy. Namely, if there's a skill drain on board and you're needing to banish something, you can attack with him and then activate his first effect to banish a card, and then chain his other effect to tribute himself off to banish a card in your opponent's graveyard, so that when the first effect resolves, it's resolving off field, and you get to banish that card. Now, if Patrulia is one of my favorites, this guy is definitely my favorite in the deck. Antondal's the 2800 beater. If he attacks a monster and successfully destroys it, he can make a second attack that turn. He also has the effect of, during either player's turn, you can tribute a monster to banish a card in your opponent's graveyard. It's really, really great for cards that target cards in the graveyard to bring them back, like Altair, Deneb, Junk Synchron, things like that. But overall, 2800 beat stick that can attack twice consecutively is really, really good to have. All right, on to the last level of Infernoids. We have Deviati. Deviati, when it's summoned, blows up all spells and traps on the field. It requires 3 monsters to be banished from your hand or graveyard to summon. And when a monster effect is activated, you can tribute off a monster, including itself, to negate that monster's activation and destroy it. Last up is the big guy, Unuku. He's the opposite of Deviati. When he's summoned on field, he blows up all monsters on the field. And when a spell or trap is activated, you contribute a monster to negate and destroy it. He also requires 3 monsters to be banished to be summoned. Okay, on to the spells and traps. Running 1/1-for-1. You can send one of your Infernoid monsters from your hand to the graveyard to special summon Decatron, and then send another, banish them, and then get your whole engine going. 1 Burial. Target 3 banished monsters in your graveyard and return them to your graveyard. This restarts a lot of plays, get you going. It's something, if you have in hand early game, you can plan for it and use it wisely. It'll keep you on track. Book of Moon. With all the Infernoid monsters having the effect of, if the total levels of rank exceed 8 on the field, you can't summon them. Book of Moon, you can flip them face down, and then their levels and ranks don't count, so you can still go off from there. So this card is very versatile in a deck. You can use it on your opponent's card, you can use it on your cards, and normally make great plays off of it. Testing this out, this was used by the winner of YCS Dallas. I was running this deck in my locals this weekend and thought, you know what, why not check it out? So, Rekindling. Special summon as many fire monsters with 200 defense from your graveyard, and the only target for this deck is Decatron, but like I said, Decatron does a ton. You can send whatever monster you need, get the effects off, and then banish them, and then get yourself started right there again with Rekindling. So it's got me on a couple of jams this weekend. It was a lot of fun to play, so I'm liking it so far. Monster Gate. Tribute 1 monster, then excavate from the top of your deck to the graveyard. Any number of cards until you hit a monster that can be normal summoned. Now, all the Infernoid monsters minus Decatron can't be normal summoned, so you put them all in your graveyard and then summon whatever you get off of it, whether it's a Raiden or a Lila or Decatron. And then you can banish your other cards as long as the levels don't exceed 8 and summon big monsters that way. Void Imagination. While this card is face up on the field, all Infernoid's levels who are originally 1 or higher become 1. or 2 or higher, become 1, and your opponent takes half the battle damage they would take while this card is on the field. If your opponent controls an extra deck monster, you can send up to 6 Infernoid monsters from your deck to your graveyard to fusion summon the Infernoid fusion monster, Infernoid Terra. This card can act as a jumpstart if you're playing a synchro deck or a Burning Abyss or something that exceeds really fast and leaves them out there on the board. It can start as a spark plug for the deck and get you going, get those things in the graveyard, what you need. Dark Hole. Sometimes it's better to kill your field than your opponent's. Let's say you have the big fusion monster out there, which has a higher level than 8, and you need to summon things from your graveyard. Dark Hole will kill both your field and theirs, so you can then banish the monsters that you killed off your field and go off from there. MST, spell and trap removal is a thing. You're running 3 Petrulias, 3 Decatrons that serve as Petrulias, 2 Lilas, and 2 MSTs. So you've got spell and trap hate covered in this deck, but they need to be there, especially game 2 when your opponent knows you're playing the deck and they side in Iron Walls. You need to get rid of those as soon as possible. Playing 3 Void Spheres. Void Spheres, the quick play. You can flip this up and make 1 Inferno monster unaffected by spells and traps. If this card's in your graveyard, you can banish it and prevent an Infernoid monster's destruction that turn. Really good, really versatile card. A lot of people play it at 2. I'm testing it at 3. And I really like it. I normally side out of 1 during game 2 though, because I know that the deck can run at 2, and that gives me a clear option for a card that I can use against my opponent. But game 1, it's always nice to see. Last up for the spells, 3 Reasoning. The way this card works is your opponent declares a monster level, and then you pick up cards from your deck and send them to your graveyard until you hit a monster that can be normal summoned. And if they called that level right, that monster goes to the graveyard. If not, that monster gets summoned to the field. This card generates a lot of advantage really quickly, since all the Infernoid monsters cannot be normal summoned. Your targets for the deck are Lila, Raiden, and Decatron. And with your opponent not knowing if you're playing Lumina or Card Trooper, they could call 3, they could call 1, they could call 4. At worst case, if they call 1 and you do hit the Decatron, then you can banish it off to summon other big cards. That's it for the spells. Onto the traps. Torrential Tribute, it's the same mentality as Dark Hole. Sometimes you need to get levels off of your board and can act as a defensive card that can interrupt big plays that your opponent's trying to make. So, really good in this deck. Lastly, since you mill so much in this deck, Breakthrough Skill. We're running 1 Breakthrough Skill in the deck. It's a versatile card. If you draw into it, you can set it and then negate effects to disrupt things. But if you mill it, you can negate effects on your turn. So I figured, why not? It's a great trap card that can work itself into a lot of situations. Moving on to the extra deck. My level 6s are Gaia Knight and Goyo Guardian. Gaia Knight is there because it's a level 6 non-effect monster, so its levels doesn't count. So you can effectively bring your levels to 0 and then summon big things. Goyo Guardian is just a great level 6 to go into, steals monsters when they destroys them, and you can really, if used correctly, you can really put yourself in a game-winning situation using this guy. Level 7s running Scrap Archfiend. Same mentality for Gaia being in the deck. It's a normal monster. Reduce the levels on board to 0. Have the 27 beater, and then summon up your big guys. Black Rose Dragon and Clearwing Synchro. Black Rose, you can blow the field and then summon all your stuff back. Clearwing Synchro for those decks that make level 5 or higher. You can summon under 2 them. It's a great synchro. Great to have just in case. Level 8s, I'm running Stardust Spark Dragon and Psyframe Lord Omega. Spark Dragon can make 1 card unaffected by card effects and can't be destroyed by battle. And then Psyframe Lord Omega. This is a new card that came out of High Speed Riders. I was wanting to test it out in the deck, and then we saw that the Infernoid player at YCS Dallas was running it, and price jump inevitably happened. But this guy is great. During either player's main phase, you can banish both him and one card in your opponent's hand face up, so that you get to see what's in their hand until your next standby phase. So if you use it at the end, if your main phase 2, if you banish this guy and one of your opponent's cards, they're not getting to use that card until your next, or they won't get it back until your next standby phase. So you can pretty much keep your opponent in a top decking situation, or at worst get a card out of their hand. It clears the levels off the board by its own effect, and then when it goes to the graveyard, you can target one card in either player's graveyard and put it back into that player's deck, and put this card back in your extra deck. So really great card. Pick him up if you can. Yeah, he's awesome. On to the Exceeds, running Dante. Dante's in here for his mill 3 cost. Of course, he gets the attack boost, then gets to switch to defense. But he's really here in case the deck is just stalling, you're not getting your reasonings, you're not getting your monster gates, and you need to get some sort of mills going. And you can go into him, see what happens. Castell, one of the best rank 4 in my opinion. Target one face-up card, shuffle it back in the deck by detaching 2, detach 1, flip something face down. Just one of the best rank 4s. Gemini Pearl, normal monster, rank 4, 2600 attack. Clear your levels down to 0 and then summon bigger monsters. Dracosac and Big Eye. You're going into this by using Sedimus. I don't go into them often, but they're nice if I need them. Dracosac, you can make tokens and pop them, and then pop cards on the field. And then Big Eye, you can steal your opponent's monster, but it can't attack that turn, but you can attack with your opponent's monster. So, great card. Good to have if needed. Last up, playing 3 Infernoid Terra. Terra is summoned by Void Imagination. Has several effects. The ones I typically used are send the top 3 cards from your deck to your graveyard, and then send 3 extra deck monsters from your deck, or each player sends 3 extra deck monsters from their extra deck to the graveyard. When I activate the extra deck effect, I am targeting at least 2 Terras to send to my graveyard so that I can use them for banish fodder. And when Terra eventually does die, because typically I don't really want to keep her on the board, if you can win with her, great. But if not, then I'll have 3 Infernoid Terras to banish to summon my bigger guys. So, this has been Cooper from Team Underground Next with my Infernoid deck. I hope you enjoyed.